Story 1. Dog sitting in the woods. There was a period in my life when I was constantly on the road, relying on house-sitting and dog-sitting gigs for income. It was the perfect setup. I got paid to stay in sometimes luxurious homes and spend time with adorable pets. This particular week, I had a dog-sitting job scheduled in Washington. It was a large, beautiful home nestled deep in the woods, surrounded by miles of thick forest. The house itself seemed worth at least $1 million, complete with huge glass windows and a modern layout. I arrived on a Thursday, met the owners and their golden retriever named Apple, who was instantly friendly and playful. After they left, I settled in, got comfortable, and began to explore the house a bit, as I'd be there for about 5 to 6 days. On that first day, Apple and I bonded quickly. We played around the house, and I eventually made myself dinner before taking her out for an evening walk. The sun was setting, casting an eerie, with beautiful glow over the wooded surroundings. The whole area was incredibly quiet, with only the sounds of nature surrounding us. We walked for about 15 minutes before turning back toward the house. As we neared the driveway, I noticed a man walking down it. He was dressed casually, with short, black hair and baggy jeans, and appeared to be in his 30s. As he passed me, he kept his head down, avoiding eye contact and not saying a word. What was odd was that this was a long, private driveway that led only to this house. There were no other homes or trails nearby, so I had no idea where he could have come from, or why he was there. As I got back inside, I felt a little uneasy, but convinced myself he was likely just a hiker who had stumbled onto the property by accident. I locked the doors just in case, and tried not to think too much about it. The next day was mostly uneventful. I stayed inside, relaxed, and watched movies with Apple by my side. The house had an amazing upstairs balcony with a fire pit, so I decided to make the most of it. That evening, around sunset, I lit a small fire and Apple lay beside me as we enjoyed the peaceful surroundings. After some time, Apple got up and went inside, and I was left alone on the balcony. At about 11:30 p.m., I suddenly heard Apple barking from inside. Her bark was frantic and loud, much different from her usual playful barks. I rushed in to find her in an upstairs hallway, staring into one of the spare bedrooms. Her tail was tucked between her legs, and her body was tense. I called her name, but she didn't respond. Instead, she kept barking, her eyes fixed on the open closet door in the room. My heart started pounding as I cautiously approached the closet. I moved closer, and as I slowly opened the door, I was met with darkness. My eyes scanned the clothes hanging inside, and then I saw it in eyes staring back at me from a small gap between the clothes. My body froze in terror before I slammed the door shut. I grabbed Apple by the collar, rushed down the stairs, and ran to my car. My hands were shaking as I started the engine and called 911. The police arrived and searched the house, but the man had already fled. The officers told me that he might have known the family was away and assumed the house was empty. Whether he realized I was there or not, I'll never know. But without Apple, I don't know what would have happened that night. Story to a night shift intruder. I work as a maintenance worker for a small business, primarily during the night. The company runs its operations during the day, so working overnight allows me to do my job without interruptions. I'm usually there from 8 p.m. a.m. to midnight on weekdays, cleaning, fixing things, and making sure the place is ready for the morning. One night I was running a little late, but got straight to work after clocking in. An hour into my shift, while I was wiping down desks, the phone at the front desk started ringing. This was odd, because the office had been closed since 6 p.m. and I didn't have any reason to answer it. After the third ring, I checked the caller ID, which simply read, "Unknown caller." I felt a little unnerved, but decided to let it ring through. It eventually stopped and I went back to work, thinking that would be the end of it. About 30 minutes later, while I was upstairs in the coffee room, I heard an unfamiliar beeping sound from downstairs. It was a single electronic beep, like the sound of a door unlocking. I froze, trying to remember if I'd ever heard that noise before. A moment later, I heard the unmistakable sound of a door opening and then closing. At this point, I started to feel genuinely uneasy. No one should have been in the building except me. I cautiously walked to the stairwell and called out, "Hello, is someone there?" The only response was the sound of footsteps, stopping abruptly, followed by silence. I moved closer to the stairwell and looked down, where I saw a shadow, a man standing near the doorway, holding something that looked like a knife. He was completely still, as if he was waiting for me to come closer. Panic surged through me as I backed away, moving back into the coffee room and grabbing my phone to call 911. I hid behind the counter, whispering to the dispatcher and watching the stairwell for any signs of movement. Within a few minutes, I heard officers enter the building, yelling for anyone inside to show themselves. They searched the entire office, but found no one. But later, when we checked the security footage, we saw the man standing at the bottom of the stairwell for a full 5 minutes, holding the knife. He seemed entirely focused, watching the stairs as if he was waiting for me. I can't shake the feeling that if I'd gone down there, he would have attacked. The strangest part is how he got inside, as the doors require keycards. The police are still investigating, but I'm haunted by the idea that he knew I was there and was waiting for me. Story 3: Uber Eats delivery gone wrong. My name is Trevor, and I'm a college freshman. I drive for Uber Eats to make some extra cash for food and hanging out with friends. I have an old Honda Accord that's barely holding together, but it does the job. One night I had been delivering for a few hours when I picked up an order from Wendy's around 10 p.m. It was a typical delivery, or so I thought. The GPS led me down a long stretch of highway before I had to turn onto a gravel road leading into the woods. There were no streetlights, and my car's headlights weren't the best, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. After a few minutes of driving, the road abruptly stopped and my GPS said I'd arrived, but I couldn't see a house or any other buildings nearby. I got out of the car and stepped a few feet forward, hoping to see a path or a house. The only thing visible was a dim light, deeper into the woods. My first thought was that it could be a porch light, so I walked closer, but the light wasn't bright enough to reveal anything around it. Then, without warning, the light moved and vanished behind a tree. The unsettling silence was broken by the sound of leaves crunching. It was coming from somewhere in front of me, and I froze, trying to locate the source. All I could see was darkness, but the sound was getting louder. Panicked, I dropped the bag of food, scrambled back to my car and tried to start it. The engine hesitated for what felt like an eternity before finally roaring to life. As I turned to drive back, I caught a glimpse of a figure running through the woods toward my car, trying to reach the road before I could pass. My heart raced as I pressed the gas pedal, managing to speed past him just in time. As I reached the highway, I ended my shift and drove straight home, shaken by the encounter. When I looked up the area later, I found that the road led to an abandoned property, with no houses anywhere nearby. I still don't know who was out there, or what they intended, but I'm grateful I managed to get away that night.